can record. Good. Okay, I have this piece of code over here. And you see that I use this notation, this. And remember, don't think about this if you don't feel comfortable looking at this as a memory address, but just think about this as try to specify that this variable is about this particular object we try to talk about. This, by the way, this is like a self in Python. Okay, if you're familiar with Python, that Python has self. This is essentially the same meaning as self. Okay, so then we have another dot get latitude. So let me use this as a let me change this code a little bit. Why don't I do this? I have another, but I will say, yeah, I will do this. Another dot latitude. And another dot longitude. Okay, so you see the difference between this and this. I'm actually using, instead of using get latitude, get longitude, I'm actually directly using this. By the way, I can do this as well. I can do this to the get latitude as well. I can do this is the same as directly access for this. So I'm going to change this back. I just want to tell you that this is all possible. But now I do it this way. I directly access to another object's latitude by using the dot latitude, the attribute, just like this. By the way, I can put an n sign here, say n, another parenthesis, and then point to the latitude. It's the same, okay? So what's the difference between this line, I just put it, and this line? I want you to take a look. Is this okay? Do you think this line is correct? So say, raise your hand, okay? How many of you think that this line is okay? It's the same as this line. So most of you are correct, all of you are correct, that this is actually different. And why this is different? If they're not the same, then why they're not the same? You know what the best answer is? Just try to run it. Let the compiler decide. Okay. We're done with this. I'm not going to do this. Let me do this trick. What happened? Did I make them? I will first, like, let me try to clean it. Make file. That's very strange. They actually allow me to use this. So they are actually the same. Let me check. Did I make a mistake in terms of making it? That's kind of embarrassing. I thought it's private. Yeah, these two are private. And I can directly access to that? Seriously? That's not right. My system is flaky. I have run this program again, never give me this kind of result. Okay, I'm going to make a take home for you to actually decide on your environment to see if this two line you're getting exactly the same. My system is not flaky. It's kind of flaky. Usually when I do this, that is going to give me a syntax error because this is another object and I try to access the latitude. Oh, you know why? It is okay. Yeah, because it is the same class. This is somewhat okay. It could be because this is the same class. So they have this kind of you can use either one or the other is correct. But if this is a different class, then this is actually going to give you some error. I know what I can do. I want to do this. Let's go over here to say the test program. Okay, so I want to print. Let's try to print. I want to print percent LF \n. I want to print the latitude only. So I can print GPS on Woodland dot get latitude. Okay, and then I'm going to print directly say TITUDE. Okay, I'm actually going to have two different ways of printing the same information. One is using the function, the other one is just using the variable. So let's see if the compiler will give me the complaint. I'm expecting the second line, the compiler is going to give me an error saying that, well, I do not have authority to directly access to that. That's the whole point about object-oriented programming. So let's try to compile it. Oh, okay, now I'm getting this. You can see that it says that the compiler error saying that the latitude is a private member of the class GPSDD. And therefore, I cannot directly use the dot notation to do this. To recover from this, I can potentially do this. If I do this, go over here, I change this two line from the private, I move it to the public. I modify and change it to public. Now, if I do this again, now everything works. Okay, so essentially, this is important about private. We actually learned two things: the difference about private and public. So within, if it's a private, if you want to access from any other code, then you're going to get the error because the complaint is a private. However, if you have the same class code, like in that case, it's a GPSDD, then you can actually directly access, even though it's not the same option. Okay. All right. Any other question? Yes, please. Yeah. That's a good question. By the way, there is a design choice about why we want to do that. In my code, I usually make everything public. In my code, usually everything public because there is another extra variable called protected. Private, protected, and public. When you mix with inheritance mode, you will learn about that. It's really complicated. But the initial design choice about having this private is really, I want to release a piece of software. I want people to use this software only through the whatever interface I specify. For example, in this case, I said, hey, if you want to use latitude, you have to use get latitude. You cannot directly say dot latitude. And what's the difference? Because if you can do dot get latitude, you can only have a reaccess. You can actually get the value, but you cannot modify. But if you do this dot latitude, like what I did here, you can actually modify. You have a both read and write access to that. Okay, so, but on the other hand, in a lot of code I have written, I typically always have both get and set. Because I want people to set the value as well. Because after you initialize, you want to be able to set it. So in that case, why not just put everything in top? Okay, that's a good question. All right, so let's now look at some other function. Then I can probably talk about, I have 2 minutes. Let's talk about one function, and then I talk about constructor. So let's look at get latitude. So what is the get latitude? Remember, this is a member function. It's a reaccess to a variable latitude. So in this is really simple. It's just what? It's just return this latitude. Just return the value. So you will see that a lot of object-oriented programming, each of the member function, the implementation is really short. It's supposed to be short. It's a very simple action that you design. It's not supposed to be too complicated. So it's like this, you can actually have this. So now the final thing, I want to go through the constructor. So this is a constructor. You remember I have two constructor, one constructor without any argument, but the other constructor has 2 arguments. That's 2 constructor for GPSDD. So the declaration of the constructor is the class name and the constructor name for that. So that's why GPSDD, colon, GPSDD. But if you're taking no argument, take a look what I did here. I basically just do set the latitude to be 0, set the longitude to be 0. Okay, so just set it to be 0 if you don't set it. But then if I have the 2 argument case, then essentially I have the latitude is equal to argument latitude. This is exactly passed in from the bracket initialization. So I just assign the value of argument latitude to the latitude, and argument longitude to this longitude. Okay. By doing this, then I initialize according to whatever I want. Okay. All right. That's kind of complete everything I want to talk about for your first C++ program. But before I let you go, I just want to tell you, please download this 4 files, and then you try to run it on your environment. So number 1 file is GPS 004 S2024 and .cpp and .h, those 2, and then download the test 004 S2024 and also the make file, but the make file have a 2 make file using the second make file. Those 4 files will work together for you to experiment everything we just covered in this lecture. Okay. All right. See you on Thursday.